EN 8592 Wastewater Engineering. See the Module 4 Sewer Appurtenances of Unit 1 presented by Professor S. Sumathi, HOD Civil GCE Thanjavur. In sewer appurtenances, we can discuss definition for sewer appurtenances, necessity of sewer appurtenances, and it includes the following, that is manhole, drop manhole, lamp hole, street inlet, catch basin, flushing device, sand, grease and oil traps, inverted siphon, sewer inlet, sewer outlet, ventilating shaft, etc. Now see definition of sewer appurtenances. The structures which are constructed at suitable intervals along the sewerage system to help its efficient operation and maintenance are called sewer appurtenances. What is the necessity of providing sewer appurtenances? That first one is to inspect the sewer. Another necessity is to help in cleaning the sewer. Now see the various appurtenances. First one, manhole. It permits inspection and cleaning as well as repair of sewers and removal of any obstruction, and also they allow sampling and flow measurements. Most manholes are circular in shape with the inside diameter of 4 feet, that is 1.25 meter, has been widely adopted. These are provided at every bend, junction, change of gradient or change of diameter of the sewer. The sewer line between two manhole is laid straight with even gradient. It consists of working chamber, an access shaft and a strong cover on the top. Lower portion of a deep manhole is known as working chamber and it provides a working space to carry out cleaning and inspection of sewer line. The access shaft provide access to the working chamber. The manhole cover of RCC is provided to cover the opening. The typical detail of deep manhole as shown in figure. The various component parts of such a manhole are briefly discussed below. Number 1, access shaft. The upper portion of the deep manhole is called access shaft. Its minimum size for a rectangular manhole is about 0.75 to 0.6 meter, and for a circular manhole the minimum diameter is about 0.6 to 0.75 meter. Its depth depends upon the depth of the manhole and the height required for the working chamber. The upper portion is expanded in the lower portion by providing an offset, by providing RCC slab, or by corbelling, or by arching, etc. Next one, working chamber. The lower portion of the manhole is known as working chamber as it provides us a working space for inspecting and cleaning operation. Its minimum size for a rectangular manhole is about 1.2 meter into 0.9 meter. For a circular manhole, the minimum diameter is about 1.2 meter. The height of the chamber should generally be not less than 1.8 meter or so. The benching. The bottom or inverted portion of the manhole is called benching. The bottom portion of the manhole is constructed in cement concrete. A semicircular or a U-shaped channel is generally constructed and the sides are made to slope towards it as shown in section AA of the figure. The concreting is known as benching and facilitates the entry of sewage into the main sewer. If the branch as well as the main sewer meet at the same level at the bottom of the manholes, channels connected with each other will have to be constructed. Such constructions are made with easy curves. Next one, side walls. The side wall of the manhole are made of brick or stone masonry or RCC, reinforced cement concrete. The brick masonry walls are simply to construct and are commonly adopted. The minimum thickness of the brick wall should be 22.5 cm, that is 9 inches wall. The thickness of RCC wall will however be much less as compared to that of brick wall and can be designed by the usual structural method of analysis. The RCC walls however prove costlier and require skilled labor and as such adopted only under special circumstances. Steps or ladders. As pointed out earlier, steps are generally provided for descending into the manhole. The steps are made of cast iron and are placed staggered at a horizontal distance of about 20 cm and a vertical center to center distance of about 30 cm. If the steps are made of double width, staggering is not required. The steps should be fully embedded in wall. For deeper manholes, ladders are provided in place of steps. The ladder will give high sense of security to the laborer descending into the manhole. The steps or ladder may start from about 40 cm below the ground level and may be continued up to 30 cm above the bottom level of the manhole. Then cover and frame. The manhole is provided with a cast iron cover and a cast iron frame at its top. The thickness of the frame is about 20 to 25 cm and its base is about 10 cm wide. It is firmly embedded in the pavement and the cover rests in the groove which is kept inside the frame. The manhole cover may be rectangular or circular. The circular cover being very common, the size of rectangular cover is about 0.6 meter into 0.45 meter and that of circular cover being 0.5 to 0.6 meter in diameter. The top surface of the cover is roughened so as to avoid slipping of the person walking over it. The top surface of the cover also carry an arrow mark and the cover is so placed as to place the direction of the arrow in the direction of the flow of sewage. The top level of the cover should flush with road or the pavement level so as not to cause any inconvenience to the traffic. Packing or a gasket may also sometimes be placed between the cover and the frame so as to properly fit the cover in the frame. This is necessary when the cover is loose and it is making noise. The weight of the cover and the frame varies between 90 to 270 kg. The lighter cover is adapted to carry lighter traffic and a heavier one is adapted to carry heavier traffic. Next appurtenance is drop manhole. When it is uneconomical or impracticable to arrange the connection with 60 cm of invert of the sewer and manhole, the vertical shaft is constructed outside the manhole chamber through which the sewage of branch sewer is allowed to enter the manhole. Such a manhole which drop the level of invert of the incoming sewer by providing a vertical shaft are called drop manhole. The main purpose of drop manhole is to avoid the splashing of sewage on the manwork. Now see the typical details of drop manhole as shown in the figure. The manhole in which vertical pipe as shown in figure is used is called a drop manhole, whereas the one using an inclined pipe is called a ramp. The construction of a drop manhole in place of an ordinary manhole in case a high level branched sewer enters a low level main sewer will thus serve the following purposes. The steep gradient which otherwise would have to be given to the branch sewer will be avoided, thus avoiding a lot of earthwork excavation. The sewage trickling into the manhole from directly placed branch sewer is likely to fall on person working in the manhole. This is avoided in drop manholes. The Typical details of manhole as shown in figure. The branch sewer is joined to the manhole through a vertical pipe. The sewage coming through the branch pipe dips in through the vertical pipe and trickles over the main sewer just above it as shown. A plug is provided at the point where branch sewer, if taken straight, intersects the wall of the manhole. The length of the branch sewer between the vertical pipe and the plug is known as a inspection arm and can be used for inspecting and cleaning the branch sewer after opening the plug. Next one, lamp hole. Lamp holes are the openings or holes are constructed in a sewer for the purpose of lowering a lamp inside it. It is a vertical stoneware pipe or concrete pipes which are connected to the sewer line. The pipes are surrounded by concrete to make them stable. At the ground level, the manhole cover with the frame is provided to take up the load of traffic. The typical details of lamp hole as shown in figure. It consists of a vertical cast iron or stoneware pipe that is 20 to 30 cm in dia, extending from the ground and connecting to the sewer line through a T-junction as shown. This vertical pipe is surrounded by concrete so as to make it stable. A manhole cover is provided at the top of such a pipe which should be capable of withstanding the traffic load. The lamp holes are especially adaptable when a bend in a sewer is necessary. Next, construction of manhole is difficult. Then the spacing of manhole is more than the usual. But however, lamp holes are rarely used these days and have become obsolete. Beside its principal used as an inspection device, by inserting a lamp in it, a lamp hole can under some circumstances be used as a flushing device, and also if its cover is kept perforated, it can be used for ventilation of sewers. In such a case, a lamp hole is also known as a fresh air inlet. Next one, street inlet. It is an opening through which storm water and surface water flowing along the street are admitted and conveyed to the storm water sewer or combined sewer by means of pipes. These are placed at the road, gutters, generally at street junctions. It provides in such a way that it will not cause any interference with the traffic. Curb inlet, gutter inlet and combined inlets are some of the classification. Now see the typical section of street inlet as shown in figure. The inlets are located along a roadsides on straight roads at an interval of 30 meter to 60 meter or so. At intersection points, they are usually located in the slope of the street is shown by the arrows, and the inlet are placed in such a way that the crosswalks which will not be flooded. Placing of inlet at the corners not only requires the pedestrians to step across flooded gutters but also subject the inlet to considerable traffic wear and damage. The inlets are connected to the nearby manholes by pipeline or branches. A street inlet is a simple concrete box having gratings or openings in vertical or horizontal direction. The inlet having vertical opening is known as the vertical inlet or the curb inlet. The inlet having the vertical opening is known as the horizontal inlet. The typical details of these types of inlets as shown in figure. Next one, catch basin. Catch basins are used to interrupt the flow of sewage before it enters the sewer. causing deposition of suspended grit and sludge and the detention of floating rubbish which could enter and clog the sewer. However, their use is discouraged because of the nuisance due to mosquito breeding. Apart from posing substantial maintenance problem, at the bottom of the basin spaces provided for accumulation of impurities. Perforated covers provided at the top of the basin to admit rainwater into the basin. Catch basins need periodical cleaning, or otherwise the settled organic matter may decompose, producing foul odors and may also become a breeding place of mosquitoes. Catch basins were considered necessary in old combined sewerage system, but however in modern days they are not considered as very essential because the modern well paved street offer very less grit and debris with storm runoff, and the same can be conveyed easily in storm water sewers laid at suitable gradients to provide self-cleansing velocity. Moreover, the problem of eruption of foul gases from sewers is very less, and as such there is not much necessity for providing such basin in the modern separate sewerage system. Next one, flushing device. Flushing device or arrangement which holds water and then throws it into sewer for flushing it. Sewers need flushing when certain reaches of sewer have unfavorable combination of low slope and low tributary sewage flow, that is have changes of blockage of also placed at dead end point of sewer. That is two method of flushing is available. One is hand operated flushing operation, another one automatic flushing operation. Now see one by one. The figure shows automatic flushing device. In this type of flushing tank, the flushing operation is carried out automatically at regular intervals. The entry of water is so regulated as to fill the tank up to the discharge point in a period equal to the flushing interval. An overflow pipe is also provided to drain away water in case the tank fails to discharge and thereby overflows. The typical details of such an automatic tank are shown in this figure. With reference to the figure, the working operation of an automatic flushing tank is explained below. Initially, when the tank is empty, the water level stands at A to B in the some level in the U-tube. As the water enter into the tank through the inlet pipe, the water level in the tank slowly goes on rising. The water level in the U-tube remaining to this level, that is A to B, till the water level in the tank remains below the level of snip hole. But however, as the water in the tank goes above the level of the sniff hole, the air is caught and compressed in the bell portion. This compressed air exerts pressure on the surface A and hence the water level gets depressed in this long arm of U-tube. The water level goes on depressing more and more as the tank goes on filling more and more. Ultimately, a stage is reached when the water level in the longer arm of U-tube reaches the bend portion. This is so adjusted that this happens when the tank gets filled up to the discharge level. When this happens, some compressed air gets released through the shorter arm of U-tube and a siphoning action starts release the water from the tank into the sewer through the enlarger pipe. The siphonic action continues till the water in the tank falls up to the sniff level. The air then enters the bell portion through the sniff hole and it breaks the siphonic action. The water level in the two arms of the U-tube again assumes the position AB. The cycle goes on repeating, thus releasing water in the sewer at regular intervals. Another method is hand operator flushing operation. The flushing and cleaning of sewers can be carried out at suitable interval by means of manual labor also. It may be carried out the following ways. In one method, The outlet end of the manhole is closed by sluice valve. The sewage entering the manhole from the inlet end will then start collecting in the manhole. When sufficient quantity of sewage gets accumulated, the outlet end of the manhole is suddenly opened and the sewage is thus allowed to enter the sewer, causing flushing operation. In another method, the inlet end as well as the outlet end of the manhole are closed by sluice valve, etc. The water from outside is now made to enter into the manhole. The flushing of sewer can then be carried out by operating the outlet and the inlet ends. In another method, one end of the hose pipe is connected to the nearby fire hydrant and the other end may be placed in the manhole to obtain the flushing operation. Sand, grease and oil traps. Grease in sewers results in formation of incrustations that are difficult to remove and cause a substantial loss in the capacity of the sewer. The presence of oil and gasoline has resulted in explosion in the pipes. Grease, oil and gasolines are removed by traps placed in the plumbing system. A general feature of grease and oil traps is the provision of a channel which force the sewage to flow downwards beneath a free surface while passing through the trap. Floating grease and oil rise to the surface on the inlet side of the trap, from which they may be cleaned through removable covers on the structure. This is the typical section of oil and grease. The principle on which oil and grease traps works is simple. The grease and oil, being lighter in weight, float on the top surface of the sewage. Hence, if an outlet draws the sewage from lower level, grease and oil will get excluded. Based on this principle, the grease and oil chamber are designed in such a way that the outlet level is located near the bottom of the chamber and the inlet level is kept near the top of the chamber as shown in figure. If sand is also desired to be excluded from the sewage, dead space should also be kept at the bottom of the chamber for sand to be deposited as shown in figure. These traps should be cleaned periodically or otherwise they will not function properly and sewage will not flow freely. Next one. Inverted siphon. A sewer line has sometimes to be laid across a stream, a highway cut or any other similar obstruction either below or above the ground level. When the profile laid below the ground, that portion of the sewer is known as inverted siphon or a depressed sewer or a sag pipe. This section of sewer line below the hydraulic grade. As inverted siphon is thus a sewer section constructed lower than the adjacent sewer section and it runs full under gravity with pressure greater than the atmosphere. An inverted siphon is usually made of siphon tubes or pipes made of cast iron or concrete. These pipes are laid between the inlet and outlet chamber, usually at the same elevation. The pipes between these ends are depressed for passing below obstruction like road, railway, rivers or any ground depression. The inverted siphon laid between the inlet and the outlet chamber consists of two sloping pipes length joined by a flat pipe length as shown in figure. The proper design of inverted siphons is very important as otherwise they are likely to be clogged and become inefficient. The siphon should therefore be designed to develop a self-cleansing velocity of about 0.9 meter per second even during minimum discharge. For this purpose, the inverted siphon is usually made of three pipe section laid side by side in plan as shown in figure. One of this three channel is meant for carrying minimum sanitary sewage, the other one for maximum sanitary sewage, the third one for carrying combined flow during monsoon. The inlet chamber contains three channel, one for each pipe section, which channel 1 overflows, the sewage enter channel 2 and pipe number 2 starts functioning. Similarly, when channel number 2 overflows, the sewage enter channel number 3 and pipe number 3 starts functioning. Three channels as given above are generally provided for combined sewers. However, for sanitary sewers alone, only two pipe sections will be required. One for minimum dry weather flow and the other for maximum dry weather flow. Besides designing the siphon in the manner explained above, the following additional points must be kept in mind while designing these inverted siphons. If the length of the siphon is more, hatch boxes at intervals of about 100 meter should be provided for facility of rodding. There should be vent pipe in the hatch box to prevent the formation of airlocks in the siphon. The changes of direction of inverted siphons should be easy and gradual. The design of siphons should be made on the basis of pipes running full under pressure. It is therefore necessary to know the maximum available head. The greater is this available head, the better self-cleansing of the siphon will occur. Also, the losses including the loss of head due to friction, losses due to bend and the losses at the entry should be preferably calculated and accordingly adjusted in the design of siphons. The inlet chamber should be provided with screens so as to remove the coarser silt, debris, grit, etc. from the sewage before it enters the siphon pipes. The minimum diameter of the siphon pipe is taken as 15 to 20 cm. Manholes should be provided at each end of the siphon to enable barrels to be cleaned. It is advisable to provide a diversion for the siphon. Hence, when the siphon either gets choked or overflows due to surcharge, the flow of sewage can be diverted. Demerits of siphons. The inverted siphons should be avoided as far as possible because of the following demerits. It is most likely to get silted as the down gradient is not continuous. The proper design with self-cleaning velocity at different discharges is therefore of utmost importance. Moreover, when once it gets silted up, it becomes very difficult to clean it up. Sometimes a chain extending from the inlet chamber to the outlet chamber is provided to stir and keep them in suspension the deposited silt in the siphon. If the inlet chamber is not properly designed, the floating matter present in the sewage will separate out and will accumulate in this chamber and thus seriously affecting the proper working of this chamber. It is not possible to give side connections to the inverted siphons. Next one, street outlet, that is sewer outlet. Storm water and treated water may be discharged into small or large water bodies via sewer outlet. Outlets to small streams are similar to the culverts, consisting of a simple concrete head wall and apron to prevent erosion. Sewers discharging into larger bodies of water are usually extended beyond the bank into the fairly deep water where depression and diffusion will aid in the mixing sewage with the surrounding water. Next one, ventilating shaft. Ventilating shaft is desirable To prevent the accumulation of dangerous explosive or corrosive gases, the ventilating shaft prevents the creation of pressure above or below atmospheric that may break water seal in plumbing trap. In case of storm water, this can be done by providing ventilating manhole covers. A typical vertical column used for ventilating the sewer is shown in figure. It consists of a vertical shaft made by joining cast iron or steel pipe length. A foundation block is provided at the bottom end of the shaft in order to keep it steady in a vertical position. A connection is provided in the lower underground portion to join it to the sewer as shown. A cover is provided at the top end of the shaft in order to allow the escape of sewer gases into the atmosphere. The ventilating columns are generally designed to serve two purposes together, one for ventilating the sewer and the other for working as a support for street lamp, signboard, etc. In such cases, the presence of ventilating column will not be detected at a glance by the general public and hence will not look unaesthetic to their eyes. The diameter of the ventilating column is preferably kept equal to 1/3 of the dia of the sewer served by it. The ventilating column should be carried higher than the height of the nearby structures. Moreover, the joints between the pipe length used in building, the higher the vertical column, must be made airtight, or otherwise sewer gases may leak at low heights, thus causing bad and unpleasant smell. The top of the ventilating column should be covered with wire mesh or cowl so as to prevent the birds from the building and their nest at the top and to prevent anything directly falling into the pipe. The ventilating column should be located in open places so that they are exposed to sunshine for the most part of the day. The heat of sunshine will help in causing proper circulation of air. Use of ventilating manhole covers. The manhole covers are sometimes provided with perforation through which the sewer get exposed to the atmosphere. This will no doubt help in achieving some ventilation but will cause more nuisance and bad smells continue to erupt from them. Moreover, the openings of the manhole cover will permit admitting large quantities of storm water and other road dust, etc. This method is therefore no practical utility except that it may be adopted in very rare isolated places. Thank you.